Hi, ladies. Happy Friday. I hope you're doing well. Having a good week, having a good start to your weekend. If you're watching this live, I'm just going to give us a moment to come up live. I'm going to introduce myself to those of you who might be new here or haven't caught one of my lives before. My name is Jenny Glick. I'm a marriage and family therapist, licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of Colorado. I'm a certified sex therapist, but in this space, I'm a mentor. And one of the cool things, I'm just looking at my phone, that's why I'm looking down to make sure this is coming up live. One of the cool things about being a mentor is that I get to work with women in really different ways that I wasn't allowed to, that wasn't conventional. When I used to work one-on-one in those kinds of more traditional, an hour at a time practice. And so as a mentor, I get to be much more of a guide, a way shower, someone who is actively participating in your up-leveling in a way that often as clinicians, we can't in the same way. It's not quite as rigorous, right? When you're spending 45 minutes or 60 minutes once a week with somebody, it's a very different thing. So welcome. Lovely to have you here. I had several questions come in this week, and I'm going to chunk them into two general topics, and we're going to address those. So welcome in. Please feel free to post any comments in the feed, any feedback that you might have for me. This is a space for women who are interested in up-leveling in their relationships. If you go back and read some of my posts and watch some of my videos, you know that in my perspective, marriage or committed relationship is an ashram. And what that means, I've had many people, some people say to me, well, if it's an ashram, it should be like a holy, sacred place where everything's easy. I'm like, oh, actually, no. An ashram is a place for rigorous personal growth. It's not easy to go sit and meditate for 8, 10, 12, 15 hours. It's not easy to be mirrored back to you, your own limiting beliefs. It's not easy or simple to see the parts of yourself that, are able to be drowned out in our really busy lives. And so an ashram is a classroom, right? And so marriage relationship is really your modern day classroom for your, in my opinion, spiritual evolution, personal growth, if you use it as such. If you don't, what ends up happening is what, the vast majority of people do, which is constantly wrestling with the container of their marriage, living in this state of why isn't it easier or they're wrong, having this belief that there's some parallel reality where there's not struggle, and that doesn't exist. So what we get on this planet is opportunities to be challenged, because when we're challenged, we grow. So to the degree that you're willing to look at that mirror, right, the mirror of your relationship and what it's showing back up at you, and that's where the goodness is. The goodness is seeing that. There's a reason why when we don't have that mirror, when you're alone, there's a period of time where it's like, I'm kind of amazing because there's nobody around me to mirror up that I'm a slob or that I'm critical or that I'm judgmental or that I have anxiety. There's nothing around me to mirror the parts of myself that I otherwise wouldn't want to see, would not have eyes to see, right? And so the women who work with me are so brave and courageous because they invite me to help them see the mirror that they're having a hard time seeing, right? And that mirror is shown up in you when you keep having the same argument over and over again. Mirror, what are you bringing to that conversation? What are your thoughts? What are your beliefs? What are your feelings? What's the emotional state, right? And the cool thing about marriage or committed relationship, and this is true in parenting, this is true in your relationship with your own parents or your children, this is true professionally, your relationship with your body or your health or your wealth. This is true in so many spheres. It's not only for marriage, it's just that I dial it in Although I work with a lot of women who aren't presently married or who are separating or getting divorced because they recognize that wherever they go, there they are, right? They recognize that like they're bringing it with them. They're bringing with them whatever it is that they're going to project out into the world. And for many of us, our partner is the world, right? So I have my projector. Most of you know what that word means, right? It's like I'm projecting my stuff that's in here onto this person. In my case, it's my husband, right? And so as I was projecting my stuff on my husband, and still do, though I catch it now, and so it's a really different experience than when I was younger and didn't know as much and wasn't practicing this with the kind of rigor that I practice it now, I would believe that my stuff was actually him. And then we were arguing about it, and then he's pushing it back on me while projecting his stuff on me, and now we're in this tug of war. So if you've been in this space for a while, you've heard me talk about this tug of war of marriage. And when you're in that tug of war, there's no growth happening. There's no evolution. It's just sucky, right? It's just sucky. And so let's get to the questions that came in. Just wanted to give you a little bit of context for those of you who might be new here, new to the space. Please feel free to post any comments, reactions, thoughts, further questions, and I'm happy to field those as well. So 2 of the questions that I have that come in, one of them is around boundaries. And boundaries are big in relationships, and many, many women who I mentor in my relationship mastery program that's 8 weeks long, we do a lot of work on boundaries because either we don't have any boundaries. So a boundary is like a fence around you, okay? And when you have that fence around you, you know what's yours and what's on your side of the fence and what's somebody else's. For some women and men, but for some women, they lay down that fence. And here's how you know you're laying down that fence, because you're resentful, right? Resentment is a mirror. Resentment shows you that you have laid down the boundaries. And you said yes to going to dinner when you didn't want to. You said yes to doing a volunteer thing or a committee thing or having sex or whatever it might be when you didn't want to. You laid down that boundary. And now there's that feeling of resentment and annoyance. And if you've been doing that a while, you have a whole pile of resentment and annoyance, and you pull all that pile of resentment and annoyance together, and that's called contempt. Right? And when we have contempt in our relationship, it's really hard to have curiosity. Curiosity is one of the most important parts of long-term healthy relationship, curiosity. When I lose curiosity in my relationship, and if I'm coming from a place of contempt, then I already know what's going to happen, and so why even bother trying? Does that make sense? So that certainty around my contempt puts me in a place where there's very little opportunity for anything to even change. Okay, so the question that came in around boundaries was from someone who said that she will be okay with things for a while. It's like, okay, this is fine, and then all of a sudden it's like not fine. And then that not fine, these are my words, not hers, my guesses, pulls up a very strong emotion. And that strong emotion is probably very intense and then wants to push back, right? So again, coming back to that metaphor of the fence, if I've put my fence down and this tractor is coming back and forth in my yard, right? And I'm not super down with that, and it's annoying, and I feel resentful, so pay attention here. Those are all indicators that I've laid down my fence, okay? Part of the practice of long-term healthy relationship with somebody else is having a long-term healthy relationship with yourself. And in order to have a long-term healthy relationship with yourself, you're paying attention to things like your annoyance, like your resentment, and you're looking at what is happening that I'm having this feeling, or I'm having this body position that I'm taking. That's important information for me to pay attention to. And many women have trained themselves not to pay attention to it, so they don't. So they ignore it, and their head is like, it's no big deal, whatever, it'll be fine, trying to talk them into doing the thing, right? And so they do the thing, and the tractor comes over into their yard, and it's annoying. But now we've started to build a road, right? With whoever's on the other side of that fence. Your partner, your kid, your parent, your in-laws, whoever it might be. And now that you've established that these are part of the rules of connection with this person. And so now they're driving their tractor back and forth. I hope this metaphor is working for you all. Back and forth over your fence. And at some moment, you get like really activated, and then that fence is like up, and it's like, get the F out of my yard, right? And in that place, that like push, the mirror that is for you, the mirror that is for you. So what it's showing back up to you is that you are not in relationship with yourself to feel into, do I need a boundary here? You know, I said that was okay earlier, but I'm realizing now I actually don't want to go to dinner. Or I'm not interested in being intimate tonight. I'd love to take a rain check. Let's plan for another night. Right? And so having an ongoing relationship with yourself so that you're totally paying attention to what's going on. Because you get to change your mind. You get to listen to yourself and be like, I know I said I was interested in doing that, but now I'm realizing I'm not interested in doing that. So I'd like to find a way to collaborate something else. And so when you realize that you have not been setting a boundary, it is and so you come back with like the big FU boundary, right? It's an indicator to you that you're maybe not nourishing the connection with yourself. So that's one option. So check that out. When I work with women, one of the things that we do is we have daily practices of connecting with yourself, because that's where it starts. If I'm not connected to me, can't connect to anybody else. So if I start my day in a rush on social media, reading the news, feeling nervous and scared and worried, I'm going to take that with me, and I'm going to be projecting that on everybody around me. And so I like to say in my program that self-love is non-negotiable. And self-love is not floofy. Self-love is a rigorous daily practice. It's something that you commit to, like committing to be a parent or a partner, right? When you make a commitment, you show up, even though all the things. You're not feeling well, you're tired, you didn't get good sleep. So then you learn how to shift your self-love practices so that you are still nourishing yourself, even if you don't have that 20 minutes for meditation or prayer or journal writing or sitting with beauty in your world, right? Whatever it might be. It must be a non-negotiable, okay? So look at where it is that you're not maybe paying attention to yourself. The second thing, if you find yourself like very reactive around boundary issues, it might be that you're really reactive because there's something going on in some other way. There's a lot happening in our world right now, and we pick up a lot of information that is sometimes unconscious. And so if you find yourself sort of in this panic and like a big pushing your partner or somebody that you're in a relationship away, you might check in if there's some kind of residual fear, anxiety, angst that has like stuck to you that's not yours, that's like coming out. Does that make sense? Because there's kind of a lot. And we are feeling beings. We feel what's happening around us, right? And we pick things up. And so somebody tells us something, and I was talking to a client this morning, and she was sharing with me things that people were telling her about certain things. And I said, it's kind of like they're planting seeds in your garden. They're just like lobbing their seeds for different things in your garden, and then they leave and you're watering them. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I want this plant that's in my garden, but somebody planted it in there, right? So it's important for you to be tending your garden. So to be really paying attention to what it is that you're nursing and nourishing in your thinking, in your feeling, in your doing, in your media consumption, in your recreating time, all of it, okay? Being very discerning. So I hope that that's helpful about boundaries. Pay attention to what's going on with you. If you're somebody who has a hard time setting boundaries, my guess is that you might be dabbling in some people-pleasing behavior. And again, that will require that you come back to yourself. Like, what's in alignment with me? How would I know that it's in alignment with me? What does self-alignment feel like, look like? How do I stand? How does my body feel when I'm in alignment? Like, this is this intimate process of being in relationship with yourself. And quite honestly, you know, it's such a travesty that we don't teach our young people how to be in a relationship with themselves before they're in a relationship with somebody else. Most of us don't know how to be in a relationship with ourselves. And so we hook up with somebody else, and all we're doing is projecting on the other person or wanting the other person to complete us. And we wonder why it is that we're having affairs and we're over drinking and gambling and, you know, have sex situations, out of control sexual behaviors, that all the things are happening, right? We're getting divorces because we never learned how to build the foundation, right? The foundation comes first. And I'm going to be writing that in a post tomorrow that I will share in here, so you can read more about that. Second question that I want to address is about hidden truths. So somebody shared that there's something that she needs to share with her partner, and she's not sure how to reveal that, which is actually the bulk of what I'm writing about, so it's really good timing. I don't know if your situation has to do with an affair or not, but I'm writing a multiple part series about how to decide if now is the time to reveal an affair. So take a big breath for this one, right? First of all, I know that it might seem odd that as a licensed marriage and family therapist, that I wouldn't just have a policy that you should just reveal an affair. That tends to be pretty typical in my profession. Certainly not all professionals, but many. I'm not of that ilk, and I will tell you why. Number one, I know that if your marriage and if you had the foundational structure to share about your affair, you would have by now. You would have, right? If you had the kind of relationship where you felt like the foundation, the system, the container was solid and grounded, then you would reveal that. Likely, you'd be more likely to. Similarly, if you internally had the structure, if you felt grounded and in alignment with yourself, if you weren't self-terrorizing, then you could more easily step forward and share about the affair. And so those two pieces are really important if you're going to reveal whatever the truth is. You know, I've sat with people, whether it's around an affair or embezzling money or something about their history that their partner didn't know about, or paternity of a child. I mean, so many different things that sometimes some of us have the opportunity to share with our partner. I think the first place to start is to really ensure that you are deeply grounded in yourself. Okay, so what that might look like is you having some kind of daily practice of gratitude and grounding yourself. If you are a spiritual or religious person, really practicing feeling held by something bigger than you so that you can feel that kind of scaffolding, I often call it, around you, right? So you feel propped up. The other thing is to pay attention to the story that you have in your mind about whatever it is that you're revealing. So many of us have a practice of what I call self-terrorizing, self-bullying, beating ourselves up. And we don't have to be harboring some secret in order to beat ourselves up. We can beat ourselves up about how we parent, how we look, how much money we make or don't make, all kinds of things, right? Like the list is endless. What we said at a meeting, what we didn't say at a meeting. There are so many ways that we can bully ourselves. And in my experience, women are expert at bullying themselves and being really hard on themselves. And so if you're bullying yourself or being really hard on yourself about whatever this situation is, I would suggest that you clean that up before, during, and after you share with your partner. Because if you don't, here's what happens. Remember how I just talked about projection? If I'm beating myself up about something, and then my partner comes in and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna reveal this big secret to them, this hidden truth, and then they're upset and they start beating me up, which they might say, how could you do that? Who would keep that from me? Whatever. It's now gonna send me into an incredibly dark place, right? Because there's a part of me that believes it. Like, yeah, who would do that? What kind of woman am I? Does that make sense? And so I already have that belief in me, and then they're gonna come and amplify it. And then when it's amplified, what happens is now we're in this tug of war situation with that, and it's my belief and their belief, and then I feel terrible, and then how do we heal beyond this, right? And so we get to, as grown-ass women, right, be accountable. I get to be accountable for when I do something, even if I do something like embezzle money or have an affair or have a child that is not my partner's and need to reveal that, whatever it is that it is. My accountability doesn't make it okay. It means that I'm accepting that this is the situation as it is, and it doesn't serve anybody for me to beat myself up, right? Radical accountability. And that looks like me owning it, accepting it, which doesn't mean dragging myself through the pit of hell, guilt, and shame. I can certainly have remorse, right? We're supposed to have remorse. If I do something and I hurt somebody, it doesn't feel good to me. And I have remorse, and then I want to repair with that person, right? And so really important that you, if you are revealing something, that you do some of your cleanup work in here and build a narrative where you are not self-flagellating, because that's not going to serve anybody. Okay, that's really important. And when I say create a belief system that serves you, that doesn't mean that it's like, yeah, I deserve to do that because they did this. Like, that's not a grown-up way. And I kind of feel like I don't even need to say that to this sophisticated audience, right? That's adolescent behavior, right? Justifying what I did is not being accountable. Recognizing and owning, yes, I did A and B, and I might have my reasons for that, but at the end of the day, I did A and B, and I realized that the impact of that is C and D, and this is what I'm choosing to do in order to repair or rectify it, right? The cool thing about revealing a hidden truth, which is not the path for everybody, by the way, right? So most marriage therapists would say you have to reveal the secret if it's an affair. And I've always thought that was so odd, because it's like the only thing in marriage counseling that is, it's like affairs are on their own particular shelf, right? If a woman, say, had a sexual abuse in her history that her partner didn't know about, it's not common practice for a therapist to say you have to reveal that to your partner in order for us to continue doing couples counseling, right? There are most things where a therapist more traditionally would say, you know, you get to sort of keep that. But affairs are really different. And I've always thought that was fascinating, because I firmly believe and know that the reason why people, whether it's an affair or not, again, I know the writer of this question didn't say if it's an affair, just that it was a hidden truth. But, you know, affairs are in such a special place in our culture, the US culture. And there's so much damning emotional energy around it. And it's not that I'm advocating for people to be deceptive, but I am also very realistic and have sat with hundreds of couples and know that me advocating for someone to do something that they don't feel ready to do is not going to serve them. right? And so over the course of your life, and I've certainly worked with women and men who some have revealed a hidden truth early on after whatever the incident was, and some have waited many years or decades, right? And we're all on our path of doing our own growth to get to the place to do the thing that feels terrifying. If it didn't feel terrifying, I would have done it early on, right? So I have so much compassion because all of us are on a path of growth if we're awake enough and aware enough to pay attention to it. And revealing a hidden truth is like a PhD in your marriage. So bravo you for being willing to do it. Because what it requires is not only for you to get into alignment with yourself, but it's going to call your partner into a new place in your relationship potentially. I've worked with so many couples who, after the difficulty of revealing the hidden truth, not easy, not pretty, have said it was the best thing in our relationship. And now I am talking about affairs specifically, that they never would have wished for it, that it was the hardest thing they'd ever done, but that what revealing that hidden truth did for them was exposed all of the places that they had been avoiding. It called both of them to their knees. And when people are willing to do their work through it, it is fast track to intimacy, connection, and your own personal growth. But it's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody. So ground yourself first. And the next thing is to get really clear about your intention. So what's the intention in revealing this truth? Is it for you? Is it for your partner? Is it to make you feel better? Is it to repair something? And so get really clear on your why. What's motivating me? Also, have some clarity about what would a successful conversation look like? Like, what do you want out of it? Right? Are you wanting problem solving? Are you wanting your partner to have compassion? Are you wanting to feel what they feel about the situation? Is it an opportunity for you to reveal the thing and for them to have the feelings and you to hold their space? So your clarity about your intention and how you want it to go so that it will go successful, I think is really important, because if you don't know what success could look like, then your partner is not going to know either, right? And it's less about you trying to control the conversation, and it's more about you setting yourself and your partner up for success. So when I mentor women, I'll often say to them, if you need to have a hard conversation with your partner, first breathe, ground yourself, set your intention, and let your partner know, I want to talk about X, and the purpose of bringing this up is problem solving around childcare situation. Or the purpose of bringing this up, I really would like to invite you just to listen to me. I don't need to problem solve. I don't need to talk about it for an hour. I'd love for 20 minutes for you just to reflect what you hear me say, or just tell me that I'm not alone. Like, set them up to succeed. Okay, because if you don't know if you're problem solving or if you want them to comfort you, they're not going to know, right? And then they're not going to do it right. And then if you have that narrative in your head, like you never know, you never show up in the way that you should, now you're back in that place. Okay, so I hope that that's helpful for those two of you who wrote those questions in. Do check out the posts that I will be posting tomorrow and the next day or Monday, I'm not sure which yet, about if you are in the situation where you have to reveal a hidden truth. I will be talking about affairs, but it's true for both. How to set yourself up successfully to do that, and how to set up your marriage successfully to do that. Again, it's not good or bad to reveal that or not. It's your own choice. And because you have sovereignty and free will, you get to decide. Not my job to make you feel wrong or bad about it, because goodness knows you probably feel wrong and bad enough. And you don't need anybody else to be twisting that knife. So sending all of you so much love and compassion, those of you who are doing the warrior work of your own growth work and being in charge of your emotional state, being radically accountable. in your life, in your partnership, with your children, with your community, in all the ways that you are. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. If you are interested in potentially working with me, I do have a 56-day mastery program for women. It's very high touch points. You work with me privately and in a group setting and lots of different levels. It is very wraparound. Some people call it intensive. I don't like that word. That makes it sound so hard. I think it's an invitation to your greatness. And DM me. Would be happy to chat with you, see if we would be a fit. It's not uncommon. I mean, most women who I work with, we, start out and they're in their sort of point A, and I take them to point B. And pretty much everybody who I have my graduation call with privately, they say, I'm so different. I can't believe how much I've changed in just 8 weeks. One of our women who just graduated today, posted this whole list of how she's so different, and she can't believe after all the years of therapy and all the things that she's done, how different she is in just 2 months. And that's pretty par for the course, because what we're doing is smushed into 2 months. And so you're getting this repetitive opportunity to practice, and you're also getting my expert lens to help you see the things that you can't see, because you can't see what you can't see. And when you are so steeped in your 1.0 narrative, when you're so steeped in whatever that story is, it's going to be nearly impossible to shift out of it. Nearly impossible. And so the reason why we hire way showers and mentors and coaches and healers is because they're out here going, honey, what about this? Right? And this is your pathway home. So sending you all so much love. Great to see you. Oh, thank you. I love you too. So glad that you're here. Talk to you next week, and take very good care of yourselves. Okay, bye.